So, welcome back to the channel. We will be recording a video today with Pastor Greg Shepard from RTS Missions. But first, I just wanted to make mention that I'm recording this on September 11th, 2024. Of course, the 23-year anniversary of 9/11. So, I would just like to really quickly, again, just remember men and women who died, and the first responders who died, and just the horrible tragedy that it was. So, just take a minute, remember that, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like this. Make sure you guys go check out Pastor Greg's RTS Missions website. There will be a link in the description. I really would strongly suggest that you do that. They're amazing, doing amazing work. Message me if you have any more questions about them. I'm happy to share. It's an amazing ministry, so make sure you guys support them. And even if you can't support them financially, support them through prayer, and at least check out their website. So enjoy this video, guys, and here's Pastor Greg. All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm joined with another special guest. This is Mr. Greg Shepard, Pastor Greg Shepard, and so thankful to have him on.
Awesome. Thank you, Devin. Pleasure to be here.
All right, so to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Pastor Greg Shepard?
Well, I'm sure we don't have enough time to dive into that. It's pretty complex. Greg is pretty complex, I think, sometimes. But first and foremost, I'm a sinner saved by grace. I love God for what He's done in my life, and for His Son Jesus and what He's done on the cross. I come from a pretty crazy background. Not to get into a whole bunch of my background or to glorify sin, but I was an alcoholic and was heavily into drugs most of my life, starting at 12 years old. And just one thing led to another. I was eventually arrested for my fourth DUI at the age of 32. And if anybody knows anything about DUIs in the state of Florida, your fourth one is it. I lost my driving privileges for the rest of my life at age 32. So I figured my life was over. How am I gonna find a wife to marry a guy that can't even drive? How am I ever gonna have a son of my own to take the football practice, baseball practice, things like that, sleepovers? So I thought my life was over. So I continued to drink and drive for another 2 years without a license. And then one night, probably at my lowest, I was coming home from work and stopped off to have a drink. And I was on a Friday, and my roommate and his girlfriend went out looking for me about 3 o'clock in the morning, found me passed out behind the steering wheel of my car at a store, drugged me out, took me home. And from then on, my roommate's girlfriend just kept asking me to go to church. And I was like, church is not for me. I'm not going to church. And she just kept asking day after day, week after week. And finally I said yes, sort of just to shut her up and get her off my back. And so I showed up on a Wednesday night at Idlewild Baptist Church at their old campus. And I walked in, and she wasn't there. But I noticed that, there were several hundred people going through a fellowship dinner line. And I started thinking to myself, man, this is like a Fortune 500 company. This doesn't look like any church that I've ever heard about. But I went in. I went in by myself, sat in the very back. Seemed like there was like over 1,000 people in front of me. And I sat in the back, and to be honest, I didn't understand a thing that the pastor said that night. He could have been speaking a foreign language as far as I was concerned. But as I left church, there was something that compelled me to go back on Sunday. So I went back on Sunday by myself and sat in the very back, thousands of people in front of me. And a few things that the pastor said that morning sort of resonated and made sense. So I left church and again felt compelled to go back to church the following Wednesday. Went back, sat in the back all by myself, in front of thousands of people. That night was really weird because it was a big sanctuary, bunch of people in front of me. I was all the way in the back, but at least three times during his message, it almost looked like we looked at each other, that I caught his eye like three times. And I still remember his message to today. It was, don't let your profession become your obsession. And at the end of that message, he gave a gospel presentation, just like he had done the previous two times. But that night, it felt like somebody actually kicked me in the derriere, and I ended up in the middle of the aisle, and I ran forward and gave my life to Christ. That was on February 20th, 2002. And immediately, Jesus Christ changed my life, and I've been sober ever since. And just been immediately, I was going 100 miles an hour after Jesus. I was involved in everything that you could possibly get involved in at church. Um, all of a sudden, God brought a woman into my life that we didn't want to have anything to do with each other when we first met. But after I got saved, we started talking. I got saved in February. We actually started dating in April. I proposed in September, and we got married March 8th, 2003, less than a year of us dating. And we got married. God moved us to Tallahassee. We had a son, Caleb, and then God brought us back to Wesley Chapel to plant a church. It was at that church plant that I took my first missions trip to Haiti. And during that week, God destroyed me again. The only way I can explain it is he ripped my heart out, turned it right side up, put it back in. And that was in July of 2006. I was incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit 2 months later in August. And we immediately started taking teams from all over the country into Haiti, doing mission trips for the next 8 years. Then God called my family and I, and our son Caleb, who was 10 at the time, to move to Haiti full time. We moved there, lived there for 5 years, came home in 2019, and in 2020, God moved us into the DR. God provided an amazing compound, which your family and you and your family are very familiar with. And so I've been traveling back to the DR every month for the last 4 years, building the ministry there, and building an amazing staff. God has just been so faithful with our staff and everybody he's put together in the organization. And we've just seen him do a remarkable work over the years, lives being saved, being changed. It's been a glorious thing. So that's a 30,000 foot view of where I came from, where we're at now, and what God's doing. And we're actually having tomorrow night having our third annual banquet at Creekside Church in Lutz, Florida, to celebrate all God's done over the years and what He plans to do in the future. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. God has definitely had His hand on your life. Looking back, do you really thank your roommate's girlfriend for being that pesky about it, right? For bugging you for so long?
oh, absolutely. We still. I mean, it's part of our story, and we share it all the time, and we talk about it all the time. And I am extremely grateful for her love for my lostness, and for her perseverance in trying to sort of introduce me to Jesus, because I didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, sometimes it takes that extra persuasion. It took Jesus coming to Paul or Saul and blinding him for him to come to his senses. And in your case, it just took someone being a pain in the butt. but
Exactly, exactly.
but yeah, that's really awesome. So you mentioned RTS. Pastor Greg is in charge of RTS. He's the owner of it. And you mentioned you started in Haiti. There's some unrest there, so you moved over to Dominican, and God provided you with a campus. And how did that whole thing kind of take place?
Yeah, and it's funny, Haiti is in a bad place right now. They have been for a long time, but it really started, a couple years ago when they assassinated the president there, and the gangs overrun Haiti and control the capital there. But it's important to note that that's not why we left Haiti. We would probably still be there, but God just orchestrated some issues in our lives, circumstances in our lives that we felt Him calling us out of Haiti for a while. At the time, that's what we thought. It was just for a while. So I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in January of 2019. Then my wife got a call and had to come home and help her mom through a pretty rough time in her life. And then our son had been living there 5 years. He's 15 now, and so as parents, we knew he had some desires as a teenager to be back in the United States. So those three circumstances sort of led us to move back in October of 2019. The goal was to go back every couple months to oversee the ministry that God gave us. But then, of course, everybody knows COVID hit in 2020. President was assassinated. The situation in Haiti just continued to spiral, making it harder for us to get back. And then God just orchestrated some amazing details, and an organization contacted us about the property in the DR. We took a vision trip there, and basically the property that we have now fulfills the vision that God gave us for our ministry. It just happens to be right across the border in another country. So
Yeah,
pretty neat story.
it is really awesome. So before we kind of get into talking about the banquet, because I do want to do that, I'd like to ask, what is probably the favorite thing that God has taught you through the process of just being a missionary and your whole ministry? What has been, I don't know, the thing that stuck out to you the most?
Faithfulness. Um, it sounds like such an easy word, but to be honest, I mean, it can be very difficult to be faithful day in and day out. But God has shown us that He is faithful. We've gone through some terrible times, some very hard times where we've struggled, uh, but God has always remained faithful, even in the darkest times of our lives and in our ministry over the years. And so, the biggest thing that I've learned through 18 years of running RTS missions is if we are faithful day in and day out. Like, I mean, God, I mean, and it's not if, I shouldn't say that. No matter what, God is always faithful. But I believe because we have we have remained faithful day in and day out, that God has just continuously been a blessing to our organization and to our lives. So, bottom line, the biggest thing I've learned and have been able to really put my arms around is how God is faithful in our lives, no matter what.
Yeah, yeah, so true. So RTS is, what's your mission statement? I know you guys have one, so let's tell the people about that.
But it's reaching, teaching, and sending individuals to engage the world for Christ. That is all that RTS Missions is about. There's a lot of great organizations out there. A lot of people do construction. A lot of organizations build wells. A lot of organizations do agriculture. RTS Missions is centered around the gospel and evangelism and seeking and saving those which are lost and then discipling them. That is our priority. That is what God has called us to do. And we try, again, to remain faithful and disciplined and obedient to that call that we believe God's given us on our ministry. Because as you know, where we're at, Haiti and on the border in the Dominican Republic, where we still have thousands of Haitian refugees, the need is overwhelming. I mean, it could paralyze you. And so it's very important for us to be disciplined and obedient to what God's called us. Because if we try and do everything that we think needs to be done, we probably wouldn't accomplish anything. So we know God's called us to evangelize and to disciple, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, for sure. So evangelism and discipleship are both super important. And what are some ways you kind of do that in Dominican Republic?
Well, our sweet spot is what we call house to house evangelism, house to house relational evangelism. Every single day, our team, and then every team that comes on a mission trip or what we call impact trips, they spend a large portion of their time there going house to house. And what that is we just go village to village, community to community, house to house, business to business, person to person, and we love on them. We find out what their needs are. We build relationships with them. We ask questions. We have conversations. And then we build in biblical conversations with them, and eventually leading to sharing the gospel. Because one thing that I've learned early on in Haiti is that people don't know they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So RTS Missions is all about relationships, and so that is a huge portion of how we do our evangelism. It's going out, it's face to face, it's loving on people, caring on people, and sharing the gospel. And then we try and assimilate those people that we reach out in the communities into a local church that we trust and respect. And then sometimes if they can't get into the church for a lot of different reasons, we have discipleship groups on our property that we invite those people to. And then we have a couple programs as well that we use to disciple. We have a His Kids program, which is our youth discipleship program that we have about 230 kids that meet on our property every single week. And they learn about Jesus. And, we just, matter of fact, here in a couple of weeks, we're, 9 accepted Christ at our summer camp. And 7 of those are going to be baptized. And then we also have a food distribution ministry where we're distributing about 23,000 meals a month now. And every one of those distributions, these families that get into the program, they hear the gospel every time they receive food from us. And we have 2 adults that have accepted Jesus Christ. Well, we have more than that, but 2 adults that are going to be baptized with the kids here in a couple of weeks. So we have His Kids, the His Food distribution, and we have a medical clinic, and we bring in medical teams from time to time. And every single person that comes through that medical clinic hears the gospel, has an opportunity to respond to the gospel. And then we have a young adults ministry as well called Last Monday, where we have between 60 and 90 young adults between the ages of 18 and 29 that come for Bible study, fellowship, a meal, and then a lot of those go out during the month with us and do house to house evangelism. So, and then I think I already mentioned, but we also have the discipleship groups as well.
Yeah, those are amazing. I know, especially with the food ministry, I got to be part of that when I was up there for a mission trip, and that was really, really an amazing time where you just get to see
Amen.
the community and see these mothers and pregnant mothers carrying a bag of food on their head. Just really, really cool to be able to do that, and just to see the joy on their faces as you give them hugs and you interact with them, give them their food. It's like such a blessing to see that. And you're partnered with Feed Our Starving Children, correct?
Yeah, Feed My Starving Children. We've been partnering for them for years. When we were in Haiti, we were serving about 40,000 meals a month with them. So we get the food free from Feed My Starving Children. They're in probably 80 countries, but our ministry still has to, there's an expense to it. There's about each container that holds 272,000 meals. We have to pay about $11,000 per container to ship it from the United States into the Dominican Republic, clear customs, and get it to us. Now, that might sound like a ton of money, but when you do the math, it's only 4 cents a meal delivered to our property. And so most of these people that are in our program, if not all of them, they have no idea where their next meal is coming from. And so RTS Missions is able to help a physical need in their lives, and then also fill a spiritual need that they have through our food distribution program. So it's an amazing opportunity to show them how much we care, but even more so how much God loves them.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So, what are some ways that people can support RTS missions?
Well, one of the most important ways, and I mention this all the time, is especially those people that know about RTS missions, have been following RTS missions, are on our email newsletter. Um, it's what I call just share our story. It is so powerful, the testimony of somebody that knows about our organization that tells somebody else about us. We you know we have teams coming from churches all across the country, and probably 90% of those teams come to us from word of mouth. Somebody else talking about our ministry and talking about their experience. So one of the best ways to support RTS missions is to tell our story, especially if you know it, and share it with other people and other friends. Another way is just, the bottom line is we need finances. We have about a 25-acre property. We have 26 staff. We have operational needs that need to be covered. And, if those things aren't covered, then our programs don't work and our ministry doesn't work. So, financial contributions are huge, and it doesn't take a lot of money from anybody. I mean, $15 a month will disciple one child for the entire month, and that's teachers, school supplies. $25 a month, make sure that kid gets fed every single week, along with being discipled. So there's plenty of ways to get involved financially on our website. Um, and then pray for our organization. I mean, prayer is the foundation of everything that we do. Prayer is, and so we don't take that lightly. We ask everybody that's affiliated with us, knows about us, to pray for our organization, pray for our staff. But it's amazing what word of mouth can do, and if people just share our story, because the more people we have sharing our story, the more opportunities we have to get our story in front of people that really want to get involved and really want to help.
Yeah, for sure. So, the last couple questions as we
Yeah,
begin wrapping up. Well, first of all, I'm going to put the link to Greg and RTS's website in the video description. So make sure you guys go check them out, support them. If you have money to donate, whatever you prayer, all of it is so helpful. But make sure you check out that website that will be shared. And tell us a little bit about the banquet coming up. What is kind of your goal with that? What's some details about it?
absolutely. This is, I say we've been doing this for 18 years, which we have, but really, we have never had a major event up until 3 years ago. 3 years ago was our first, what we call banquet. It was a coffee and dessert type theme. 2 years ago, we had our second banquet, which is nothing is insignificant. And that's our motto. Nothing that we do in our ministry in the DR or anywhere is insignificant. I mean, holding a baby's hand, giving a hug, coloring a sheet with a child, none of that is insignificant. So that's what we themed, entitled our banquet. But this year is our biggest one, our most important one in 18 years. As you can imagine, 4 years now in the DR, 4 years of maintenance and different things like that, and God growing our organization. So this is a big deal tomorrow night, and we have a goal of reaching $100,000, either by the banquet or by the end of the year with end of the year giving, and that money is going to a lot of vital needs. We need new vehicles to transport supplies and food around the country, to just get around, to visit people in hard to reach places. We have two vehicles now that are getting ready to give up their last breath, so to speak, and you've seen them. And so we're in desperate need of vehicles, and we're looking to expand our youth discipleship program from 230 to about 500 kids every week. And we're trying to get our food distribution ministry up to, within this next year, to be serving over 1 million meals a year. So we have a lot of dreams and aspirations for this banquet and for the end of the year. And but most of all, the banquet is again to tell our story, to invite people there to see what God is doing, to be inspired by that in a way that they want to get involved in it. Um, One of my first Bible studies that I ever did when I got saved was Experiencing God by Henry Blackaby. And there was a nugget there that, it said, find where God is working and join him there. And so our banquet is all about showing everybody that attends that God is working through RTS missions and an invitation to join him. So that's our biggest goal for the banquet, is to share what God is doing and where he's working. And that's with RTS missions.
Man, that's all super good stuff. And as a last kind of thing, is there anything specific that you guys really want prayer for, that people can be praying for you about?
I would just have to say, just pray for RTS missions and perseverance, for peace, for his continued grace. God, speaking of, uh, just God is doing some amazing things within RTS missions now. I don't want to give away too much because we're making some announcements at the banquet. But what what we do and what any nonprofit ministry organization does is very tough. It's very taxing. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. We're busy, especially our staff in the DR. They work so hard, and long days sometimes, especially when we have teams there. I mean, they're working 12, 14 hours a day. Sometimes we have teams back to back, and so they're working weeks of long hours. It's very stressful. So I would just ask everybody to just pray for our organization, for God to give us peace, comfort, rest, those things that only Jesus can provide, for our entire organization, and especially for our staff in the DR, um, and our staff here in the United States. We don't have a big staff. We have me and two other ladies, and my wife does a lot, and there's a lot to do here. And it's hard. We could spend an hour talking about just what Lisa Corsack and Rachel do behind the scenes, dealing with our teams, and especially getting ready for this event. My gosh, they've been putting in so much time getting ready for this big event tomorrow. So just pray for peace, comfort, perseverance, and that would be a blessing to us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on this channel, and we'll all be praying for you. We'll all hopefully support you. I know it's a blessing to be able to do that, and your work that God's doing through you is amazing, and it's a blessing to be part of it. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Devin, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for thinking of us and having us on your show.
Of course. All right. See you guys later.